I made 3 million in the last 3 years, but it took me 9 years to actually start making some decent money. In this video, I'm going to break it down in 5 simple steps of how I got there. Because you'll never become a millionaire without understanding these steps. So this is where you are now, and this is where you want to be. Now, if you make a jump, you'll most likely trip and fall. But if you have a few stepping stones, results are guaranteed. So let's get started. So I was sitting here and thinking, how would I become a millionaire if I had to get started from ground zero? This is what I've written down, and I think this will be definitely of help to you too. And the first point here is that no job will ever get you there. You might have heard all of these, slogans where tax system is rigged and they are all out there to get you and this whole thing is just a scam. Well, that's not quite true, and you can really find the right path out of this whole rigged system if you really understand how the rigged system works. And the thing is, if you want to stay in a job, you'll never become a millionaire. There are very few cases where you may become a millionaire by being in a job, but that's extremely rare, and you'll have to be working yourself to the ground. The job is not going to get you there, right? The question is why? Well, jobs do not pay that much, but what jobs also do, they really hire you to stop really building up something for yourself, because somebody else's hires you and your time and your valuable assets and skills, whilst you could actually be building something of your own, something that generates more capital than you just being in a job, because you being in a job generates no capital for you. It's generating capital for the company, but you are getting your salary, and your salary in most countries is horribly taxed because taxes are on the people who are employed extremely high. Now, congrats. The taxes for those who own companies in most countries on average, I would say, would definitely be significantly lower than to those in employment. My point in life has always been, and this is how I got to making millions and millions online in online sales in the past 5 years, is that I realized that I'm not gonna argue with the system. I'm going to learn the game and the rules of the game, and I'm gonna play it. I'm going to play it better than I could, better than I was taught, and I was going to put in all my heart and all my soul to actually crack the code. And the code is actually quite simple. You need to move away from trading your time for money, charging hourly, billing hourly, being in a job, to actually setting up a business and enterprise that is going to generate cash flow and assets for you. Now, I know it sounds quite hard, but there is a way to get there. I honestly started out, it was like 12, 13 years ago in London, and this is when I was working as a teacher in a high school, but I was getting paid around £1,000 a month, which in London means you're near the poverty line. Like, it's extremely hard to survive on £1,000 in London because most rents are above 1,000. And I remember, going to work, and that was the only proper normal job that I ever had, and thinking, okay, well, this is paying me 1,000. And at the time, I had some people reach out to me and ask me to teach them English, sort of migrant workers in the UK. They were willing to pay me £30 an hour. So I started doing that without much thought. And then later I started to sort of compute that by being in a full-time job and getting around £1,000, that meant that I was getting paid £7 an hour, which is, a metro, a tube ticket, costs £2.40. So, and if you go back, forth to work and back, you spend around like £5, which is insane. So that means I have to work the entire hour to even get to work, right? Pretty mad. So I was thinking, okay, well, that makes no sense whatsoever. So then I moved into understanding that, okay, well, I can't be trading my time for money. And if these students of mine are paying £30 an hour, why don't I have more of these students? And that means that I can work much less than I am now. And later on, once I started going with this whole understanding, and I quit teaching at school, I started putting my students into groups. So no longer was I making £30 per hour because I was teaching one person. I was now paying £150 per hour because I was teaching 5 students. There's a longer story to that, and there are videos on my channel how I built up my membership, moved to Bali, traveled the world. I realized that, okay, this is doing well, but it's still requiring me to be there and be teaching English to these amazing people, but I had to be there or on Zoom, it doesn't matter. And yes, later on I was teaching those groups in Bali, cutting the cost of living. I wouldn't have to be paying for commuting in London, but overall it was still me trading time for money. So then I set up a membership business, which meant that I set up a language school, and we created these programs, video programs that people could be accessing and watching and learning themselves. I started hiring other teachers who would be teaching groups that people would be upgrading to. And this is how I started to productize my time, because I was no longer attaching the value to my hour. I was attaching the value overall to my skill and to the value that I was providing to my clients. Now, but you may ask, how do you get there? It's one thing to know, okay, well, my job is not going to make me a millionaire, but what else will help me to get there? And how do I get there? I'll say that there's one simple way to do it. And that simple way to do it is called find your ikigai. So ikigai is this Japanese concept which helps you find the reason for being in life. Sounds very fancy, but it is actually very, very simple. And it really helps you get this whole thing going, get the business set up, and identify what actually you could be selling and what could be your business in the first place. Because I know that a lot of you watching will probably be saying, well, it's easy to say for you because now you have like 3 businesses, and if I'm in a job and I have mortgages to pay and children, like how do you get out of that, and what do I do? And this is how you move to your ikigai, my friend. So I want you to be finding that sweet spot in between, which is marrying what you love, which is your passion and your mission, with what the world needs, and combining it with what you can be paid for and what you're good at. Now when you combine these 4 elements, you get your ikigai, which means that not only you're making money out of something that you actually enjoy. And I've done this time and time again with all the skills and passions that I had. So later on, when I build up like a company, I've done this with my second company, with my business mentoring company. Again, I went through this whole ikigai thing and identified what would be that sweet spot. But it's not enough to identify that sweet spot. Once you do, you need to start building an actual business around it. You need to start building an ecosystem around it. You need to start, building your following. You need to start building your products or services, and you need to start selling them. Here's the third thing that I always tell my clients, anybody that would listen, my friends, and anybody that wants to sell anything. Because people think it's always about the product that you sell. And that is very, very important. Identifying the right product, having the right product, being able to deliver that product or service. It's not an easy task to set it all up. But there's something else that you have to manage, and that is to get good at trading attention. Because what I think happens, and why most small businesses fail, most freelance gigs fail, most little things that you try to sell on an Etsy shop fail, is that people do not understand how to grab attention and how to hold attention and how to convey the message in order to get the sale. And of course, here comes this magical word that some people hate, and that is marketing. There is no limit to what you can do if you know how to trade attention, how to trade people's attention. There are multiple ways that you can trade attention, and that is, you can do paid media. That means you can do Facebook ads and Google ads and so forth if you have the budget. I've done that, and we'll talk about it in one of the videos in the future. You can be doing that with your organic social media, right? Like you can be posting and getting your followers and getting them engaged. And if you do it right, you can actually get pretty good results. And that's what we actually have been doing now on my Instagram account. It can simply mean having that sales call or sales conversation with a client, either via Messenger or on Zoom or in person, and knowing how to hold their attention. Now, how do you become good at trading attention, aka marketing? There are multiple resources out there. Like, to educate yourself in marketing today is easier than ever before in human history. And yes, marketing as such is a sort of thing of the past couple of 100 years, and it's evolved, but in one shape or form, you could argue that it's always been around. With the dawn of AI that we have access to become good at marketing is not that hard. So as before, you would have had to, master copywriting. You would have had to master video editing and image creation. Now you have AI tools doing that for you. For example, for copywriting, I use Claude. It's a really good tool. It writes better than ChatGPT. The same for video. I might be using Opus AI in order to edit my reels and shorts. So there are multiple tools out there, and this is just a few, that can really help you become good at marketing. And if you go over my videos, multiple other videos on YouTube and courses out there, you can become very good at marketing quite fast. And it's always that one question, and that's something that I've been asking myself. And this is how I built my multi-million-dollar online companies, by simply asking, how can I capture attention, hold it, in order to convey a message and convert it to a sale? It's very simple. And if you manage to do that, whatever product or service or idea that you decided to embark on, you'll be able to leverage. It will become something that will generate the return. Because today the market is crowded, and you just simply need to reach the right people, and it can be 0.01% of the market, or even 0.0001% of the market, but that will be enough for you to build a business that annually will get you to 1 million. Higher. And this is the rule that I've learned quite early on in my journey. And at the time, I really was making barely like a couple of $100 a month out of my online business. I couldn't afford anybody to help me. But I really wrote down where my time was going. And hours and hours were spent on posting and social media and dealing with client scheduling and so forth. So I decided to hire an assistant. And what it did was that it freed me up to really focus on what I was good at. And that was trading attention. That was selling products, creating new products, growing the business, innovating. And I could see the business starting to grow just by getting a VA. So of course, very slowly, I started building team. But what I found that if you do build a team, it really enables you to step back. It enables you to take time off. It enables you to not burn out and be passionate about what you do. When you run a company by yourself, there's just one mind, one consciousness, right? Now, when you bring in multiple people, now you have multiple minds engaged in the very same goal. I think having a team is vital if you want to get to $1 million, if you want to get to $5 million, and not only get there, but then consistently be generating that amount of money. And lastly, make it boring and do it all over again. Excitement is not the basis for cash flow and profit and getting to $1 million, $2 million, $10 million. You get to 10 million or 5 million or 1 million consistently by making your business boring, by making your business predictable. So if you found one thing that works, you keep on doing that one thing that works. Yes, you can innovate. Yes, you can bring in new things. But what happens a lot of the time when I speak to entrepreneurs who are starting out, they want to always have this level of excitement just when you started out. The thing here is not to go astray and cheat. By that I mean, go and, create another business and ditch this one, or bankrupt this current one that's profitable, but quite the opposite. Make sure that the current business is structured in a way that it can run itself very predictably, in a very boring way, with the team, that the team can do most of the work. And if you got to that point, go and build a new one. And the first years of building that new business will be exciting, will be chaotic, will have that momentum and dynamism that you're probably looking for, until you get them to that boring stage. My mantra is always to make it boring and do it all over again. And by following that mantra, you're generating multiple assets that are now creating cash flow for you. So, for example, I have 3 language schools, a business mentoring company, we're launching some other things. And all of these things are generating cash flow. Some are generating just 5 or 10,000 a month, and some are generating 100,000 a month. But if one thing goes down, we have another cash flow to sort of rely on. And that feeling of security, stability, and this sort of level of boredom allows you to be creative, ironically, and then build something new and grow your wealth and get to that million, get to that 10 million, get to 15 million. So if I was to start out today, I would make sure that I'm starting out something that is not a job, that it is a gig, that I'm productizing my time, and that the business that I'm productizing my time around is in the sweet spot of my ikigai, my reason for being. And once I have that in place, I'm now hiring people, I'm building my team so that my team could run my business, and then I make the whole operation boring and predictable and stable so that I can move on and build another business or simply enjoy my life of being a millionaire. And now if you want to hear more about how I build up my companies, here is another video coming up on your screen that will get you an even better insight on the process and the learnings that I've had along the way. See you there.